How did almost all men come to be accused of being emotional abusers these days? Hi, if you have no idea who I am, my name is Claudiu Manea. I'm a psychologist and a therapist, and for the past 10 years I've been helping families grow stronger together and function better together. And today I want to talk about this trend that I see of more and more men getting accused that they are emotional abusers, and that they are emotionally abusing their girlfriends, their wives, their spouses, and all of that. And how this situation came to be. And to put things into perspective, you need to know that this weaponization of the emotional abuse term is something and is among the tactics used by feminism to destroy families and to separate men from women. Now, feminism has almost never been about women's rights. Feminism, from its inception, has always been about putting the woman above the man and turning men into second-class citizens in their families as well, not just in society, but in their respective families as well. So, among these tactics, the emotional abuse one ranks really high because what feminism did in the beginning was to target families in which there were grave circumstances, where in families where there was domestic violence, where there was substance abuse and all of that. And they went and said, look, this situation cannot stand. These women should not stand and should not suffer these circumstances, and we need to get them out. And everybody said, yeah, let's save the women and all of that. And laws were in place and other social measures were put in place, like helping those women financially, shelters, and all of that. Now, I do not have a big problem with this, except for the fact that I do not think that all of these measures actually deal with the cause of that situation. So hear me out a little bit. I'm not saying that the domestic violence shouldn't be stopped. Of course it should be stopped. I am just saying that making sure that the woman leaves that marriage and that situation, I'm not entirely convinced that it fixes the issue altogether, because there are underlying emotional and psychological problems there that do not get addressed by her simply leaving. Take into consideration that she ended up in that situation in the first place because there was something that should have been addressed and should have been better handled prior to that. She maybe should have gone into some kind of therapy. She maybe should have gone through some kind of support group and all of that. And the man perpetrating the domestic violence as well, there are psychological and emotional problems there as well. So if you just punish the behavior, but you do not handle what's underlying that behavior, you are just making room to perpetrate the situation further and to repeat the pattern further. Because what tends to happen with these people is that they enter another abusive relationship upon leaving the previous one. So the woman enters another abusive relationship where she is further abused by another man, and the man enters another relationship where he abuses another woman, and so on and so on and so on. And in all of this drama and in all of this craziness, the adults suffer, of course, but more often than not there are children involved who tend to bear the bulk of the suffering because of the lack of judgment and because of the wrong decisions made by their parents. And that's actually what pisses me off the most when it comes to this. So no, I don't think that the woman leaving the abusive relationship fixes everything. It's something, it's better than nothing, but I don't think it fixes everything. So I don't have a big problem with this approach. I just think that it's lacking in complexity, and I think that it doesn't really solve all that much, aside from stopping the domestic violence, like I said. But there are other ways of stopping the domestic violence that could be as useful and that could have greater benefit for those involved. But let's set that aside, and because we are talking about something different right now. So feminists targeted initially these abusive families, these abusive relationships. The problem is that the percentage of families in which there exists this type of thing, the percentage of men who are actually abusers, who are violent towards their spouses and towards their children, is not that high, and it's certainly not 100%. So feminists needed something to target the remaining men who aren't violent. And what they came up with is this pretty brilliant strategy, if you think about it, of emotional abuse. And it's pretty brilliant because emotional abuse has certain characteristics that makes it ideal as a psychological weapon. And those characteristics are that emotional abuse is pretty hard to define. Emotional abuse is pretty hard to prove, and because of that, emotional abuse is extremely hard to defend against. So if you are accused of being an emotional abuser, it's really hard to defend yourself, simply because there's no solid ground on which you can stand. So that makes it an ideal weapon to wield against men. So the idea of emotional abuse is that it is used as a weapon against men. It is used to make women feel like the victim in their relationship, and it is giving the women an excuse for leaving the relationship and still having the moral high ground of, I was abused, he was a bully, or he was an abuser, I'm the victim, so I'm taking care of myself and I need to go and heal myself, whatever. So if you want to see this entire thing in action, check out the law against emotional abuse passed in Spain a couple of years ago that goes like this. So it starts with saying that this law is given to protect anyone from having to deal with the negative effects of emotional abuse. Okay, fine. But on the very next paragraph, it says, all women who are victims of emotional abuse, you can't make this stuff up. They're not even trying to hide it. It's clearly, this law is passed clearly to be used by women against men and to be weaponized against men. And further down, the law attempts to define emotional abuse. And that's when things get grotesque and get really, really insane. Because at one point, I mean, they mention a couple of things having to do with emotional abuse. But at one point, the law says that emotional abuse is whenever your husband tells you something that makes you feel bad. The first time I read that, I thought I was going insane or blind. Because think about it, whenever someone tells you something that makes you feel bad, that would constitute emotional abuse. So, you telling your wife that, my darling, the love of my life, please do not leave the kettle on the stove for too long, and don't forget it there with the stove turned on, because you will burn down the house. That thing has the potential to make your wife feel bad, because yes, you are criticizing her in a way, and that would qualify as emotional abuse. So congratulations, you're an emotional abuser. Like I said, you can't make this stuff up. So my advice to you is that if you think that your husband or your wife is emotionally abusive to you, please take some time to really ponder and to really question whether that is actually the case. Because more often than not, you will find that you have been gaslighted by feminism into believing this kind of crap, and the only result of you believing this crap is that you will start to resent your husband or your wife. You will start to feel like a victim. It will sooner or later destroy your family, and you will gain absolutely nothing from the whole thing. More often than not, what you think is emotional abuse is miscommunication between the two of you. You need to learn how to communicate with your husband or your wife. You need to learn how to work together. You do not need to be constantly on the lookout for abuse, trauma, and all of that crap. That's just BS. Most of the time, it's just BS. If you are being abused by your husband or your wife, it's pretty clear that you are. Okay? So, emotional abuse means something perpetrated by someone, first of all, who has ill intent towards you, who wants to do you harm. More likely than not, your husband or your wife does not want to do you harm. So, the emotional abuser needs to want to harm you, needs to want to destroy your self-esteem. The purpose of him or her doing this is to control you. He, in order to achieve his this goal, he or she puts in place a plan, an evil plan that he or she perpetrates over a really long time. That's emotional abuse. Your husband or your wife telling you not to do something and making you feel bad is not emotional abuse. This is a dystopia we are living in. People are going insane. Do not let the insanity insinuate itself into your life and into your family. Use your wisdom. And if you do not have any, pray for wisdom. Whatever you do, do not let yourself be gaslighted, because you will not come out a better person on the other side. Now, that was it for my rant. If you've enjoyed it, Please don't forget to hit subscribe and ring the notification bell so you hear more from me in the future. If you do, I'll see you on the next one. Whether we see each other or not in the future, I want to thank you very much for taking the time to listen to this. And I hope you have a great day. Thank you and goodbye.